Welcome to the Dream Power Show, where your dreams turn into reality. Here is your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman.
Welcome to the Dream Power Show. I'm your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman, the Dream Coach. Want to make this your most successful year ever? Well, stay tuned as my guests are going to offer their tips on how to navigate through the next few months in the best possible way. First off is astrologer Sharita Star, who's going to tell us what the stars have to say and offer her advice on what to embrace and avoid in the next few weeks. Holistic psychotherapist and dream expert, Dr. Kimberly Mascaro, tells us how dreams can help us improve our health and help us avoid illnesses we may not be aware of. Finally, if you find yourself in a relationship that doesn't work for you anymore, emotional wellness coach Lori Bettini offers tips on how to get out of a toxic relationship and learn how to love yourself again. Well, we've got a lot to cover here, so let's get started. As I look back on the year 2021, I can't help but dwell on the realization that nothing was the way it was supposed to be. That was the year we were going to look at the pandemic through the rearview mirror. It was also the year we were going to get back to normal. But things remain uncertain. As a country, we're more divided than ever. We can't even agree on what a fact is anymore. Are these trends going to continue into 2022? The answer might lie in the stars. And to help us navigate these waters we're living in, I'm reaching out to my favorite astrologer, Sharida Starr. Sharida is an astrologer, numerologist, and lexigrammist. She uses her knowledge of all three disciplines to help others navigate their life course and gain success both personally and professionally. Welcome to the Dream Power Show, Sharita.
My pleasure to be here, Debbie.
Sharita, when we got ready to set up this interview, you wrote a note back to me that included the famous quote from Benjamin Franklin: "Those who fail to prepare, prepare to fail." Yep. So what do we have to prepare for in 2022?
Well, in listening to what your introduction touched upon, we're definitely not going into rainbows and unicorns. I can just clarify that right away. What we're going to be watching, and whoever thought the world was going to go back to normal this year was falsely misled by that simple misinformation and the facts not being told the way that they should be, at this point in the venture. And of course, we've been doing these interviews together now. And so your audience may or may not remember that when we were looking at the outlook of 2020, we were looking at the concept and the theme of awakening the unexpected. And that for sure came to pass by March, especially of 2020. When we were looking at what was going to be happening last year, this time last year, and looking at what was going to be transpiring in 2021, we were looking at the concept and the theme of changing global truth. So anyone who thought that we were going back to some form of normalcy, again, was highly misled, because this year was about changing how we understand the globe and how we understand what the truth is in the first place. And we will cross that universal threshold to another universal year of 2022, which the theme is, and the concept of it is, mastering the value of compassion. Because what we're headed for now, because the energies got so stirred up in 2021. Everything, it was like somebody took a snow globe and just shook it up, and we still have no idea how everything is really falling. And we knew we were going to be thrown myriads of information, and we would have to be the observer. We would have to stand in neutrality to discern it. But most people haven't chosen to do that. As you also pointed out in your introduction, everything seems more divided than ever. And it is not just an American problem, it is a global one. So they have, whoever they are, and I won't go any further than to say whoever's in charge, that is, playing all of this out as it is unfolding across the globe. They wanted division and they wanted to conquer this way. So they've succeeded with that, depending on, who you are and how you choose to take this human experience in. And it doesn't mean anybody's perception of it is what is wrong or right. And that is really where we've got to stand back, take a pause, stand in reflection, and look at the larger picture of what's really going on here. Because if you're going to stand on a side or another, you're never going to win.
So you talked about compassion, which is something you would think that we all strive for, but too many people are just stuck in hate and in fear. So
That's correct.
how do we get to compassion?
Well, you've got to do your soul work. And one of the things that when we look at what's actually happening here in America, because America, like any human being, has a birth chart, has a way to look at how cycles and things are circulating within the nation, what is the current forecast of the nation. Now, of course, this starts the official mark of it beginning is every July 4th every year, and it will circulate through the next July 4th. So we're about halfway through our current personal year as a nation. And I think I've given you, for your listeners and watchers who would like to learn more information, one of the pieces is Healing America from Within, Understanding a 7 Personal Year Cycle. And that's where we are as a nation. We're in the 7th year of a current 9-year span of time. In any 7-year, whether you be a human or you be a country, you're being asked to look at yourself from the inside before you're really looking at what's going on outside of you. You've got to go within for the solution. So much of what needs to happen, especially for America, and I think the world would set the example for the world if America really stood up and did this. But we're watching is that's not exactly happening. Is we need to heal this nation tremendously. There's just too much pain. There's too much hatred, as you've also pointed out, which has absolutely been created. So this is the healing year. But knowing we're also, and these are all really, because I know we only have a limited time here today to talk, there's so many details of how this is working for the nation, but the higher energy of what our 7 personal year cycle is known as the shattered citadel. It is the tower being struck by lightning. We are in a horrific hurricane in this nation this year, and we've got to remain in the eye of the storm. That will come through meditation. That will come through being silent and understanding how to listen before we talk, before we say things. There's too much. People jumping the gun, knee-jerk reactions. That has to stop. Now, the storm is still going to be circulating no matter what, but it is up to the individual in this, as an American citizen, it is up to the individual to stand and honor your individuality.
Yeah,
to be able to make a choice for yourself.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of always been the case, because even when we talked before the pandemic happened, when you kind of warned things were going to be topsy-turvy and to expect the unexpected, and the watchword was to stay centered, look to within, and really, I took that advice, and it really helped me not only survive, but kind of thrive.
Absolutely.
These past years. And so I think that's really wise advice for any time. Even
exactly. I mean, it's funny, on social media, we have like the memories and all the things that come back, and things are circulating, from things I posted like 9 years ago. And that's the work I do, is to teach people how to stay in your own empowerment during whatever changing times are happening. And now, kind of like the ante has changed. Not only are we dealing with changing times, which have always been the case, but now we're dealing with uncertain times. So to maintain our soul certainty, and I loved your use of, hey, it helped me to thrive during this time, not just survive, because I am not about survival. I'm about allowing you to thrive. And I don't care if it's a pandemic or what is going on. You can thrive in your life, but you've got to do the work. You've got to put the work into it. And you've got to maybe look away from what the societal programming is telling you to do in order to attain that. You're never going to do it by following the program. You've got to do it by honoring who you are as an individual. And that's what the value of astrology, numerology, and lexicograms are all about, because it allows you to trust yourself. That's the only person you're really in charge of and in control of, honestly, is you. That's the only one you're in charge of. Even if you're married or you have children, obviously you guide them up until a certain point in their life, but you don't have control over anybody else or anything except you. So if you've got that under your belt, you are empowered to be that discerning human being in sovereignty to move through anything that is being thrown at us, which of course you also touched upon that as well, Debbie, the fear. The fear is being thrown at everybody, left, right, and any way you look, it's being tossed at us. So we've got to learn how to discern false evidence appearing real, so we can face everything and rise. That's my word. That's my little. It's not a lexigram, but what are they called? An acronym for fear. What fear is?
Right.
False evidence appearing real. Face everything and rise. And that's really where we are. And as we look to 2022. And when, we're closing the doors of 2021, it was a 5 universal year. Mercury was in charge as a planet. He's our messenger guy. He was all about changing everything, and the way we interact on a global level, that whole truth has changed. We're still interacting on a global level, but the truth about it is very different from what it was a year ago, moving into this year. And now as we're moving into 2022, we're going to switch gears into a 6 universal year. And the very planet who rules the 6 is Venus, who is our planet of compassion. She's our planet of understanding. She's our planet of relationships, love, harmony, balance. She wants all these things. But the trick is, as we cross the threshold of 21 to 22, she's actually going to be retrograde. So if you understand, if people understand what that concept of Mercury retrograde is, well, all the planets do retrograde. Venus is also one of them. She's also an inner planet. She starts this at the very tail end of 2021 on December 19th. She will be retrograde through January 29th of 2022. That's about 6 weeks. She doubles the time of any Mercury retrograde cycle. So the very planet in charge of our 6 universal year, mastering the value of compassion, is going to be taking a little bit of a break up there. And for understanding retrogrades in astrology, they always say this is a time for reflection. This is a time for going within as well, looking to whatever area the particular retrograde is affecting your personal life. But on a global scale, as we wind down 21 and we move into 22, these energies are, honestly, I just batched out recently January and February of the Empower Scopes that I do every week. It's my empowerment podcast it refreshes on Empower Radio every Sunday. I have never told people on a recording before to hold the faith and to pray. Because that is what January is like. It's where this mastering the value of compassion is immediately going to be asked of us as a human, for humanity overall across the globe. This isn't just America. This is everywhere.
Because you said that, the face of America in the world is going to change? Is there a way you can tell whether it's going to be a positive or a negative change?
That's up to how reachable and teachable everybody's going to be. I think we're probably going to get ourselves in some sacrificial and victimized situations, because there's certain sides of how this energy is working that, there's just people who are not going to get it. They don't want to be reachable and teachable. They're going to stay in some form of entitled energy, and they're going to think they know it all. But none of that is going to be well supported. Again, if you read the lunarscopes in depth, you'll see the full definition of the 12. And one of the things it clearly talks about is remaining a student. Understanding that the journey in our life is always about being teachable and remaining reachable to be able to do that. But what we really value and understand as the truth in this country is about to go through a revolution. Going back to all of what's happening in 22, overall for the globe, and just how this is affecting us, on a universal level. This collective energy that is coming, it is some of the most intense energy I have ever seen. And I've been doing this work for over 20 years. And looking at history and just looking at the current times and all of this, but this is something else.
So
there's a lot of tension coming in January, and it's a global there's tension all over this globe. It's all over the place. Yeah. I don't know if we're going to get in a little bit of a hairy mess overseas somewhere. That could be part of it.
So what do we have to look forward to in February?
Well, and I'll kind of connect some more dots of the preview coming in prior to February of how it'll really, I think by February, we're going to be like, oh boy. But prior to February arriving, and this of course is looking at what's cooking here in America itself, as I'm looking at that, and globally we're going to be watching. Theme of 2022 is mastering the value of compassion, and there's just going to be so much unfolding in the human experiences that we're going to be witnessing that will require it. And because the ruling planet of 2022, Venus herself, is retrograde as we close out 2021, entering 2022 for the whole entire month of January. She's retrograde till the 29th. And anytime planets retrograde, they ask us to reflect. So whether it's Mercury retrograde, Venus retrograde, Mars retrograde, any of these retrogrades, is always about cycles of reflection. So we go into 2022 with this extremely strong reflective request. And to kind of layer in more of it is what will happen with Mercury. Mercury will join Venus in retrograde activity, motion, whatever you want to call it, by the 14th of January. And then the second half of January is all about reflection, because we've got a full moon on the 17th of January that's also going to pull us into more reflection. So the second half of January, and you know how, like, Debbie, like, everybody wants, like, oh, boom, 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 the new year, and everybody's like wants all that huge excitement, and it's the new year, it's the new me, and all this stuff, and not under reflection like this. No, you're not going to feel like you're going to be able to put your foot on the gas in life. And it doesn't mean that you need to be miserable either in this. It is about, if you know and you value and you honor reflection, this is quiet time to be able to digest and work with what's going on. We're going to need, again, this compassion, this need of compassion is going to be quintessential in order to navigate 2022. The polarization is not going to go away. And in fact, under a universal year like 22, it's actually it's like a test for humanity of how bad can the divide get. And that's really where the energy is going to go. But that doesn't mean we have to be in it as our personal individual choice. We can observe it, but we don't have to be sucked up into this storm globally.
It's almost like then that we're going to be in a hurricane, but we can be in the eye of the hurricane and not be tossed about. And
yeah. So like where all of this is happening, so where the Venus retrograde is happening, where this Mercury retrograde is going to happen, it's all where what we're going to talk about for America, this Pluto return energy is, starting to get into this intensity for America itself, where the Venus retrograde is happening. This is all happening in the sign of Aquarius. And if you again, go to my website, SharidaStarr.com, you'll find Mastering Venus retrograde in Capricorn. There's an article link about that, explains, everything. And then there's articles, the near-death experience, understanding a Pluto return for America, to become reborn. And then we've got the Healing America, understanding a 7 personal year cycle. All of those separate links will guide and help you understand what's going on, on an American scale, and what is going on with these like intense things happening. Because this Venus retrograde is like it's like I don't want to say it's going to be like the straw that breaks the camel's back, but it's kind of like that, because what's happening with this Pluto return coming in February? It's the first one. This is a very important thing for America and the world, looking at America, to understand. So as a country, which we were established obviously on July 4th, 1776. Again, we have a natal chart just like a human being. So that means that we can look at a forecast, we can see how everything is happening in the here and the now, and how that, holds up against the constant of who we are as a country. So what's happening in America is we are about to happen, and again, the energy started forming in 21, but the intensity is coming in 22, and it won't really ease off in full until 2024. So this is a road here. This is a journey, and it's, this isn't like a quick fix, like, oh, we're going to turn on a light switch and everything's fine again. We're not going back to normal. We have to evolve into a new normal and embrace that, which I always do talk about as well. Is it's a simplistic energies that we are also meant to embrace. It's a slowing down energy that we're also meant to embrace. Simplicity is your friend moving forward. And it doesn't mean that you're suffering because you've got simpler in your life. You're just not moving at that weird pace that it was unnatural anyway. It was all stressed out, the way that busy bubble of society always wanted everybody to keep pushing the envelope and grinding and all of that. And no. That's an unnatural rhythm.
So,
and that's also stars teach us, is how to work in a natural rhythm with ourselves, with, whatever it is.
So getting back to, the energies at the beginning of the year. So would you say that it wouldn't be a good time, for instance, to start a new business or do something new?
You can sure, hey, the thing is, you can try, but it will be riddled in error, as we say in astrology. Astrology highly advises never start any matters of importance under inner planet retrogrades, which of course is whether it's Mercury, Venus, or Mars. Those are the top 3 planets that affect us when they go retrograde. And Venus and Mars don't do it as often as Mercury does. He'll do it about 3 to 4 times in one calendar year. These are cycles of reflection. So when you're meant to be reflecting, you shouldn't be starting. You're supposed to naturally Just like the moon, we have a new and a full moon every month. It is the natural time of the month to start something and the natural time of the month to ease off and to kind of take a look at things. It is the simplicity of sleeping. It's the understanding the rhythm. If we never slept every day, what would we do?
Ask you, how can people find out more about you and your services?
I am on the web, sharitastar.com. And, please join my mailing list. I have loads of complimentary information all the time. I do, other videos like this with other way showers and warriors, as I'm calling them, people who are doing the light work right now, which are the people that, we really do need to rely on and follow. So yes, sharitastar.com. You'll find everything there that you need to know about.
We've been speaking with astrologist Sharita Starr. We'll be right back with our next guest. What do you think of when you hear the word dream? Do you think of hope, inspiration, creativity, wishes, scary or weird images, or maybe reconnecting in the night with a departed loved one? What if you were to add the word medicine into the mix? That's the subject of the latest book by my guest, Dr. Kimberly Mascaro. Kimberly is a holistic psychotherapist who has long used dreams to help promote healing and personal development. Her book, Dream Medicine, The Intersection of Wellness and Consciousness, explores how to make the most beneficial use of your dreaming experience. Welcome to the Dream Power Show, Kim.
Hi, thank you for having me, Debbie. Great to be here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And Kim, a lot of people hearing this might think that using dreams to promote healing is something new, but actually it's a practice almost as old as dreaming itself. So could you talk about how dreams were used like this in olden times?
Yes, well, we have some evidence that dreams were used with healing in Greece, Egypt, and really across the ancient worlds, where people would, incubate or ask a question to a dream, and maybe even, or ask a question before they go to sleep, talking to the dreaming consciousness there. And also in special places, special temples and sacred sites and such. So these practices, like you said, dreaming is as old as time, as old as dreams itself. And these practices are known to be done across the world in ancient times all the way up until present day. They're just not written about or so popular in contemporary Western culture as they may have been, years and centuries ago.
Yeah. What makes you think that it kind of fell out of favor in our Western world?
Well, that can be a bit of a dicey topic, because when you have a strong relationship with your dreams, so that, there's so many names for this, right? Our dreaming self, our dreaming consciousness, higher self, so many different names. But when we have a strong relationship with that part of ourselves, we become our own authority. And that gets really heated, doesn't it? Because not everyone wants individuals to be their own authority. We have structures in place that act, whether they're in, religious institutions or other institutions that act as authority. And so, you're asking a really big question. Even if we look at the history of psychiatry and psychology, there's a time when kind of the mind and spirit split from the body. There's good reason for that. But the sad thing about us becoming more, I think, materialist, if you will, has led to this split that we even see today, where people are not as connected with their inner self and their higher self as I think would be healthy.
And dreams are obviously one way to promote that.
Definitely. Yeah. And medicine, hence the second word of my book title, medicine is any kind of health practice. So when we look at it from the broadest definition, which again is in the initial pages of my book, when we look at it from that broadest definition, dreams can be included there. They can be used as a feedback system and can reflect what's going on inside of our bodies. And so I love bringing just that together, dreams and medicine. Let's put those two words alongside and get, a hot conversation going here. So if I may share too, a couple women that really inspired me were, so many people inspired this book, but two just right off the top of my head were Wanda Burch and Kathleen O'Keefe Cannabis. And both of them are also mentioned in the book Dream Medicine for how they use dreams to help them during their breast cancer journey. And so if anyone, any woman's listening that has had a breast cancer diagnosis, these are people who've written books about such a topic. And so because I had a diagnosis in 2019, my book gets into that as well. And between the three of us, Wanda and Kathleen and myself, we went different routes of how we chose the treatment path and what we chose to do. But what was similar is that dreams were the guides, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. And in fact, Kat was actually the second guest on Dream Power Radio. I had met her many years ago and totally inspired by her and her story. And, I came into DreamWorks sort of late in life. And so hearing her story and knowing my story just further cemented my belief in the power of dreams. And it is amazing. I want to get to the dreams that you had when you were actually also dealing with a physical issue, and tell me how those intersected and what resulted from that.
Yeah, well, maybe I should just say first that it can be really scary to get a diagnosis and trust dreams if you have no relationship with them. So fortunately for me, I had built this relationship, and so it didn't seem as scary. So I had used dreams to inform choices and decisions in relationships and career, things like that, where to live. And so I had some trust in my dreaming life already, so that in 2019, when I was diagnosed, I was surprised, but not surprised. And if I go to my dreaming journal and look back, there is about a year of dreams that strongly suggested in some cases that something was wrong. One so much that two spiritual friends appeared in a dream and were showing me both a medical chart and a divinatory chart. And it was like they were both one. I also had other dreams where I was in places that were also two things in one. A courthouse and a church. Couldn't figure out, was I in a courthouse or a church? I called that dream the divine courthouse. And so like this, the one with the chart, it was like divination's taking place here, but hey, this is a medical chart I need to pay attention to. So dreams like that were suggestive that something was going on. And also dreams where I was given a healing staff, things like that. So like healing was starting to take place as well. And yeah, it was pretty incredible. There were others with animals that, as I started to then enter more shamanic practice, that later clearly became power animals. But initially it was a bit of a jumble where I had to kind of figure out what's really going on here. And is this coming from a place of anxiety? Is this coming from my higher self? We can ask a lot of questions and get shaky when big decisions have to be made.
So while you were having
those are a few examples.
Yeah, while you were having these dreams, were you thinking that they had to deal with your health, or was it not until you actually got a diagnosis that you went back and saw how they were sort of?
Well, because I pay attention to them, I record them in my audio recorder, then transcribe them, sometimes draw them. It wasn't like they were just kind of put down quickly and forgotten about. So there was something that was kind of like, something's going on here. And so also having, normally people don't share too much on podcasts about their own body, but I will for any women listening. I already had dense tissue, and knowing that makes things kind of hard to figure out. So a diagnosis can come later than earlier. So there's always that part of me that knew, I had to pay attention to stuff, knew I wasn't maybe the healthiest I could be at the time. But to answer your question, it was kind of like this middle place where I was not completely ignoring them, but I wasn't doing probably as much action as maybe I could have at the time.
Well, then tell me what happened after you got the diagnosis and the dreams that you had then.
Gosh. Oh, I need to go. I feel like I need to go grab my dream journal. So there were so
you have to tell me all of them.
Yes, there were so many. So about 2 months, actually almost to the date, about 2 months after the diagnosis, I'll share a lucid dream I had. I had a lucid dream where I asked the dreaming mind. That's a term I have had colleagues use. We all have different terms for that dream consciousness. But in this dream, I directly said dreaming mind, and I asked 2 questions separately though, but in the same lucid dream. And one was, what's the, how to heal. I think I asked that one first. And the second was what is the root cause of the condition? And so now that I'm in my intellectual mind, part of me wants to say I should ask them in the other order. But that was the order I asked them in. And I was given imagery, as I didn't have anything auditory happen. No one, suddenly appeared or anything to tell me directly, but I had some interesting imagery. And the first image that came to me after asking how to heal was almost like a mirror reflection of it could have been me, something, a human form. It could have been me sitting in a lotus posture, but chalked in like white. And that I'm still trying to understand. But I got this sense that, okay, as far as healing goes, the meditative practices that I've been so immersed in for many, many years were going to be helpful in healing. And then in that lucid dream, I kind of came, because I it was almost like I opened into a different space, and then came back into my living room where the lucid dream was taking place. I was in my dream body there, apparently. And then asked the dreaming mind about the root cause, and then got a very interesting, like a face, but it was almost like an alien kind of face, not the alien you see in the silver, big-headed costume, but something else. And of course, my head could run with all kinds of interesting things with what that could mean, but my initial gut feeling was something foreign, like a bacteria, a virus, something like that. And so I do want to say, it's really important to pay attention to the initial hunches. Maybe later we can talk about how to start recording dreams and things. But for now, while I'm at this point, it's really important to pay attention to the hunch, the gut response, the feeling of the dream, where it's so easy for us to go in the head and intellectualize what does this mean. But if I stuck to that feeling, it was like, okay, foreign invader was essentially what came to me. And it was a couple of years later that I learned that my body was hosting some viruses and bacteria, some which are associated with the illness. So that dream was puzzling and informative. And the more I worked the dream, the more I seemed to understand what it was trying to tell me. And what I mean by worked the dream, some of your, listeners may want to know, is that how I like to work dreams, not just write them down, or like one of my teachers, Robert Moss, told me, give the dream a title, check in with the feeling state, things like that. But also sketch the dream. I've always, drawn or sketched my dreams because I'm a visual person and an artist. And so that was really helpful. And then after that, after the initial sketch, I turned it into a very large painting, 4 feet by 4 feet, in fact. And that is on one of my living room walls. Not the dream paintings you see behind me here, but on another wall that just reminds me of what I need to do to pay attention to this dream. And something funny happened. This is really, really weird. And I thought it was so weird that I asked other people about it. So I decided to only paint the response to one of the questions, which was dreaming mind, show me how to heal this condition. And so in the painting, I knew I was going to paint a white figure. And so something I've done since art school, because my bachelor's degree is in fine art. I was a painter. Well, I guess I still am. But I literally painted my body, and I've done that before. So I just got a roller and painted my my upper body, at least, in white paint. Walked it right up to the canvas. Kind of smashed my chest or breast right on it, and came away from it. And what kind of creeped me out, well, maybe I'll say the cool part was, all right, the painting's coming along, but what creeped me out, and I'm looking at it now, actually, I'm sitting across from it, was that the paint that stuck from my chest and breast and upper stomach onto that canvas when I pulled away, what was left there looked like a face. And it reminded me of the face that I was shown, that kind of alien-like creature that I was shown when I threw the second part of the second question into the dreaming consciousness. And so I tried to cover that face up. And even to this day, you can still see it when you see the painting.
If somebody listening here who's maybe a dreamer, remembers their dreams, wants to learn more about how they can use dreams to heal themselves, what is your suggestion?
Well, I would say that it really has to start with tracking and logging our dreams. So if we're going to, if someone's new to this, and if we're going to want to use our dreams as guidance and trust and act on what they're, showing and telling us, then we need to build a relationship with that part of ourselves. So again, it all starts, I believe, with tracking and logging dreams. And you can do that, either with an old-fashioned notepad or journal and pen at the side of your bed, waiting for you to wake up, and log them that way. And that's how I began. And after a while, I got tired of that. So I just grabbed my phone and put it in the voice memo and then transcribed it later. Some people like to, wake up and just do quick sketches or make bullet points. And others go to their computer and type them in more at length, so that over time they can, use the kind of Control F, the find option, and look and start to kind of code and look for themes that reemerge. But no matter what we do, and we can try different things, stick with something, let's say for a month, and then and see how that feels. And then, try another way to find the way of tracking that's right for you. Some people too like to go straight to tracking, a narrative, writing in more of a narrative form. We always suggest, as dreamers, typically suggest that you do it in the present tense. So instead of, I walked down the street and went into a store, is I'm walking down the street and I'm entering a store, or I enter a store, something like that, keeping it present. And if you like to do narrative in that way, that's great. Other people prefer to just quickly note some bullet points, give the dream a title, and initially write what was the feeling response that you have and do a quick sketch. So there's no one right way, as you hear me conveying, but what is really important is that the practice is taken seriously and it's done consistently.
How can people find out more about you and your work?
Well, thank you for asking. My website is consciouschimera.com. So that's, conscious, CONSCIOUS, and chimera is spelled CHIMERA. Consciouschimera.com is where one can find my publications, my website, how to work with me, my blog, and upcoming retreats opportunities as well.
We've been talking about dream medicine with holistic therapist, Dr. Kimberly Mascaro. We'll be right back with our next guest. A lot of people believe that the beginning of the year is a good time to make a change you've always wanted to make. I disagree with this sentiment. In my opinion, the best time to make that change you want is now, not next week, next month, or next year. This is especially true when it comes to dealing with a relationship that doesn't work for you anymore. No one knows this better than my guest, emotional wellness coach, Gloria Bettini. A victim of toxic abuse herself, Gloria freed herself from the pain and feelings of self-hate generated by that relationship. She now helps other women heal and successfully go from breakup to breakthrough. Welcome to the Dream Power Show, Gloria.
Hello. Hi, Debbie. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I am so excited. And such an important topic to deal with also. Gloria, anyone who's been in an abusive relationship knows how hard it is to get out of it. So why don't you tell us about your journey? When did you first realize that you were in a toxic relationship?
Yes, absolutely. I would love to do that for you guys. So the moment of realization came when I gained my own clarity about myself, right? So for years, I was struggling with anxiety, with OCD, and these are all issues that don't actually allow to see clearly what is happening to you and around you, right? So I decided to work with a coach myself, and she really helped me reduce my OCD, which is now completely gone, but at the time, reduce it significantly. She helped me deal with my anxiety and finding ways to accept it in my life and cope with it. So once all this was done, I was then able to see clearly. And I really saw my ex for the person that he really was. And it was really, really hurtful and eye-opening, and in a way, really shocking, because that was a really long relationship. We had been together since the age of 18. And when the moment I had that realization, I was 32. So it's a long time. And it's a long time that I have spent thinking that something that was not normal, such as emotional abuse, was normal. Does that make sense? I spend a lot of time very confused in that. So opening your eyes to that, it's quite hard. Yeah,
no, absolutely. I'm curious. So did you have these personal issues like the OCD before you got into this relationship, or do you think they were caused by the relationship?
I think it was, no, I didn't have them before. I remember, as I said, we started dating when we were really young, and I never suffered with OCD before. I never had anxiety before. I have linked my anxiety and my OCD to my job for a very long time. And I think maybe in part that might have been true, because I really had a high pressure job. I worked in central London in the events industry, which is really, really go, very hectic. And I do believe that had a little bit of a part to play. But I do believe that what I was dealing with on a daily basis in my relationship went much, much deeper that my job could ever go, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So when you did come to this realization and realize that you were in a toxic relationship, did you have any ways of trying to solve it or try to heal the relationship, or did you come to the realization that it just had to end?
I would say it was a process. It was definitely a process. So first of all, I realized that what I was living wasn't true for me. So I wasn't on this beautiful trip in your home country. I was in this beautiful trip, and we were in Monument Valley. And if you have been to Monument Valley, it's a very spiritual place. It's really charged with a beautiful, very, very powerful energy. And I had a beautiful moment there by myself. I mean, I was there with my ex, but I had this moment by myself where I just realized that, hang on a minute, there is more to life. You know, this life that I'm living, it's not actually the life that I am here to actually live. So I had the realization for myself first, and then I guess that combined to me healing from the anxiety and the OCD, then allowed me to slowly open my eyes to my relationship. I still wanted to work on it. I'm not a quitter. And especially when you have been in a relationship for such a long time, you have this sense of, well, is it going to be all gone to waste then? You kind of want to do something to see if, is it just me? Can we just work on this together? And I did a lot. I did a lot I asked for help to him and to his family as well. I always tried to voice the way that I was feeling. But when you are dealing with somebody that has narcissistic traits, they tend to gaslight you and not validate your reality. So everything that I was saying, stuff like, I think we really need to work on our communication between each other. I think that this isn't working. I was told, you're imagining it.
So what finally gave you the courage to walk away?
I think my own sense of protection towards myself. Like, it was me being like, Gloria, you've got to put yourself first. That nobody else is going to live your life. You've got to do this for yourself, and you've got to do it's survival, if you want, survival mode that just told me, no, you have to do something about it.
The difference between this type of abuse and physical abuse is that the scars that you hold or the woman holds is invisible. And often women find it hard to talk about it, either because they feel ashamed that they're in this situation, or because their friends can't believe that this person who to them seems like such a wonderful, lovely person is capable of doing anything like that. So where do they turn? I mean, what do they do?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, guilt and shame are the most definitely some of the feelings that people who have gone through something like this are facing on a daily basis, because a narcissist does play you on guilt, because they know that you will feel guilty and then do whatever it is that they want. So guilt and shame, definitely. And also there is that sense of almost like letting yourself down because you think you have let that happen to you, right? You're like, how could I put myself in this situation? How could I not realize this? So if there is anybody out there who has gone through a similar relationship or who is in one right now, please know that you didn't do this to yourself. Please know that a narcissist can get to anyone, and it's not because it's you. It's literally their way of operating. You have absolutely nothing to do with this. So what you can do is, I honestly thank so much the online world, because there is so much information out there. So I would say, first of all, research. Make sure that you understand what is it that could possibly be happening in the relationship. If you feel like it's safe for you to leave, then just pack your bags and go. If you feel like it is not safe for you to leave, then my best advice is fake it, pretend if you have to, and get yourself ready to leave. And then when you have a safe place to go, when you have made a plan, and you know that you can be without this person and not be bothered, and they can't reach you, then just go. But definitely the online world will help. I would say start researching, find out the terms, find out the different phases, what is happening exactly. There are so many other coaches like me who specialize in this. So have a research on Facebook, on Instagram. There's so many out there that have free resources that can really help you to understand and start overcoming this. And 2 more things: work with someone if you can. Hire a coach, a therapist, whatever most resonates with you, who can help you heal emotionally and psychologically from this. Because a lot of the things that you think are now normal, they're actually not. And you need to reteach yourself what is it that it's actually normal, right? And the second thing is, if you turn to family and friends, make sure that the people that you turn to don't know the person, because the narcissist will go to extreme extents in order to get to you, right? I have heard so many horrific stories of people having their friends turning against them because of he's such a nice guy, right? Because of that. So make sure that the people that you turn to are really, really trusted and they have your side, or they don't know the narcissist. That would be great. Yeah.
One of the ways that a man can hold their power over a woman is by making them feel unworthy of love, or at least unworthy of any love other than the love that they're providing for her. So it's easy to tell a woman who's gone through this, you are worthy, you're worthy of love, but it's hard to put that into practice, especially after you have been the victim of this kind of abuse. So how does a woman learn to heal from this and learn how to love herself again?
Oh, that's such a great question, Debbie. Thank you so much for asking that. It is something that it's very strange at the beginning, because it's almost like, you see, when the thing with narcissistic abuse is the fact that it's not something necessarily big that happens once, but it's the small thing that continuously happen every single day that then they literally condition your subconscious to think a certain way. And like you said, to think that you're unlovable or you're unworthy, right? So it's really important, because the brain learns by repetition. It's really important that we start doing something that it's going to contrast that, right? So if this is what we have, if that's the repetition of things that we have learned for a very long time, then the best advice I can give you is cut out some time for yourself. Start small, but cut out some time for yourself every single day, just doing something that you enjoy just because you enjoy it. It doesn't have to do with anybody else, whether it's 10 minutes, half an hour, whatever that is. Keep it a secret, keep it for yourself. And if you want to go a level up even, I would say if there was something that you really, really loved as a child, that you really loved doing as a child, try to go back to something like that, because that will make you reconnect to the person that you know that you are, and it will just give you that enjoyment, and that every single day, bit by bit, you will build up your strength again, so that then you can start maybe working with someone that can help you then do the bigger part of the healing.
Just how can people find out more about you and your services?
Yeah, absolutely. So my website is gloriabattini.com, and you can find everything that I have on there. We actually have at the moment, there's a wait list for a mother wound program, which is for women who have toxic relationships with their mothers, which is really a whole other, scenario of things which can happen very often. So we currently have that, and that's on my website too, but you can find me I hang out on Instagram a lot. So please contact me, message me. My Instagram is Fearless Living XX with 2 kisses at the end. Fearless Living XX.
We've been speaking with emotional wellness coach Gloria Bettini. I hope you've enjoyed today's program. If you have, please tell all your friends, follow me, and drop a positive review on your podcast site. Until next time, this is Debbie Spector Weissman saying, sweet dreams, everybody.